Well, hello there, Dippers, and welcome back to round 16 of the Knuckle Sammich podcast. I'm your host, Drake, as always, joined by the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Thomas R. Shackelford.
It's official. We're living in the bizarro world of the UFC.
That is true. We are in a very, very crazy state for the UFC. Dippers, we are actually going to announce a new segment to this show today. So you guys definitely want to stick around for that. And it's actually going to be Leighton C's Fight of the Night. So he's going to give us a quick 10-second fight breakdown. And this week he picked a fight that was just about as long as his breakdown. But before we get to any of that, Leighton C, you know what to do. Drop the noise.
Welcome to the Knuckle Sammich podcast with Thomas R. Shackelford, a sauce on the side production.
All right, guys. I hope all of you out there actually bet the fights this week. Shackelford was actually on fire in Fuego. 5-0, perfect night. Picked 2 dogs, hammered them, cashed the paychecks. I didn't have the beanbag to bet against Emil or Lex Luthor, but I cashed in on the other 3. $25 bet got me, a good, nice, crisp $100 bill. Stashed it away, put it under there for the Tooth Fairy. What do you think about running the table last week? Was that what we expected?
It is. I thought they were pretty easy fights. Aside from the Glover and Corey Anderson, I thought they were going to be pretty easy fights to call. I can't believe you didn't pick the Butcher versus Mech. That was the one that I said was a 100% guarantee locked-in win. And it went exactly
Thomas R. Shackelford's dog lockdown winner of the week.
I don't know if you... So the fight started off, Mech does a running, flying knee. Just sprinted, flying knee.
That's why I didn't bet against him.
Takes down.
That's why I didn't get bet against him.
That's not what you do against the dude that's going to take you down.
I played UFC video games. I played all 4 of them, okay? I know if you run out there and you throw a flying knee, you know what you're doing. You're about to whip that ass.
Well, he then laid... So that was within the first 2 seconds of the fight. Then he laid on his back for the next 4 minutes and 58 seconds getting pounded.
Yeah.
And it pretty much went like that the next 3 rounds. Yeah. I did... So Bloody Elbow, I was following their Twitter along while watching the fights. And the dude... I razzed him on there. He says, round 2 pretty much dominated by the Butcher. But Mech was... totally dominating on the feet. Almost could give it to Mech, but we'll go ahead and give it to Butcher. I'm not shitting you. I don't think Mech was on his feet for more than 10 seconds the whole... Hell, he
might have dominated from there.
He did dominate in the stand-up, but he may have only been standing a minute out of a 15-minute fight. You can't call that his round. And I tweeted back at him, hey... I don't know what fight you're watching, but there ain't no way Mech won that round. And then he sent back, oh, well, he was totally tooling him on the feet. Yeah, those 5 seconds that he was standing, he hit 2 punches and then laid on his back getting punched the rest of the time. There's no doubt in my mind I could be a writer for one of these big MMA outlets, one of these big media outlets, because they don't know shit. No. Half the time I'll look at their picks and I'll be like, no, that's not good. And
no, every week I'm sitting here like, you give me your picks and I'm like, damn, we're going against the grain on all these. And then, bam, 5-0 last week.
I won't say I haven't had some down week. When I added them up...
No, whenever you don't go 500, I think something's wrong. I think that you didn't do your research. Dude, this is the 3rd time you've went perfect, and we have never picked less than 5 fights in a week.
Yeah, I when we looked it up, I think I was 36-12 at one point, and then we had like 2 bad cards, which one of them was including the previous one where we went bad.
1-4 that week.
Yeah, so I think we've had like 2 weeks where we went 1-4, 1-3, but the rest, we've all been 3-2, 4-1. Like I look at him and I think
3 times 5-0, and another time you went 7-1.
Was that the big money night when
that
Connor?
Was big night. No, that was the night you went 9-0.
Oh.
You went 7-1 the night that Curtis Blades picked up his win. The only fight we lost was Covington.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, these fights, so we could break them down in 2 seconds. The Butcher versus Mick, boring decision. Tybura versus Struve. Struve got a hole in his lip that looked like a coin purse. Lost a boring decision. That Miranda, the Lex Luthor versus Azatar, pretty boring. Azatar basically would throw some whoppers his way, get taken down, hop up, mollywop him, got the decision. And then the best fight of the night, really, I thought was Anderson and Glover.
Oh, absolutely. I know you picked Corey Anderson. Corey Anderson had a really, really impressive decision. I think he had 7 takedowns on the night. Just looked overwhelming, basically, for Glover Teixeira. Take us through that fight. What was the main important part of the fight for Corey Anderson?
His movement, and I messaged you this. I noticed when they said he was fighting out of somewhere in New Jersey, which I thought struck me as I didn't think he fought out of New Jersey. Well, when I hear New Jersey, the first thing that pops in my head is Mark Henry, who trains Frankie Edgar, Edson Barboza, Marlon
I know
Rice.
He's not talking about the big WWE wrestler weightlifter.
No. His movement looked really good. He didn't get, I think when we were breaking him down, I said, look, Glover's got really, really strong, powerful hands, and he's got a tough guillotine and a bad sprawl. Well, that's pretty much how the fight played. He stayed away from the power shots.
The fight went exactly like you said.
No, I mean, he stayed away from power shots. He did get caught in a guillotine at the end of round 1, I think. I think had there been some more time, it probably would have finished him because he kind of gave up position. He was rolling to his back. Which if you're watching a fight and you see somebody would get a guillotine and they give up position, roll their back, and they'd rather give up mount, they're hoping the guy lets it go to try and pound on him. So, but yeah, that was kind of a breakout win for Anderson. I did see a stat. He's 3-3 in his last 6 fights. 2 of those, I think he got KO'd. 1, I think, was a bad decision. But really, his name's in the ring for title contention now. I mean, it's got to be the way the 205 division is.
Yeah, I would say that even though he's a lower rank, I would say Anthony Smith is kind of nipping at that heel. I think these guys could actually fight each other, and the winner gets the title shot, and I don't think anybody would really have a bone to pick against it, especially with Gustafsson now pulling out. And
that kind of brings us, brings us to the Bizarro World comment from the beginning. So Shogun was originally supposed to fight No Time, Vulcan Ozdemir, who his last fight was against DC. DC beat him up. So that was who was supposed to fight Shogun that night. He pulled out. They pulled him to put him against Gustafsson, I believe on the Garbrandt card, the August 4th card. So he gets hurt. He puts a picture on social media. His nose is broke worse than mine. I don't know how you get your nose broke in the last week of a training camp.
He has asshole training partners.
Apparently. And you know who he trains with down there with Henry Hoofton, those guys who's known as one of the best striking coaches. But there's got to be some dick in his gym who clocked him.
Yeah.
So Vulcan's out, so that leaves Gustafsson needing a dance partner for 2 weeks. So Anthony Smith trashes Shogun, which I called. Trashes him and does the perfect call out. Yeah. They say, who's next? Jimmy Mantle was sitting outside the cage smiling at you. He said, hey, I respect Jimmy. I love watching Jimmy fight, but Alexander Gustafsson needs an opponent in a week. I'll take a plane from Germany to L.A. and fight him next week. Loved it. You don't get better than that.
And that was organic. That wasn't one of those, like, WWE, let's hype it up.
I'm in love with this
glass
kid.
Break.
Yeah,
dude, I'm
in love with this kid.
I love him. I watched him first. The first time I'd watched him fight was actually against Rashad. That was the first time that I really gained any momentum in my head. And he was walking out there. I'm like, man, this guy's a dope. Look at his tattoo. He seriously has a no regrets tattoo, and he has an infinity symbol that says like courage and something else.
Yeah.
And I'm like, man, this guy's a dope. And then he comes out there and puts on an excellent fight. Goes his immediately after the fight, they started talking to him. I'm like, I like this kid. Like, he's well spoken. He's much more like his actual verbal words are better than his tattoo words. So I was like, I really like this guy. And then after this fight, he handled it perfect. I mean, he knocked it out of the park.
Oh yeah.
And I didn't get to watch it until later. I got to watch the later airing. I had a tea time that morning, so I missed out to watch it early. But I saw the call out, and it's like, damn it. I had known that 3 hours prior, Gustafsson pulls out.
Well, I didn't know that. Because Gustafsson's been calling out DC. He said, hey, I'll fight anybody. I'll fight DC at heavyweight. I forget who else he was calling out. But then, I'm not shitting you, on Twitter, maybe 20 minutes after Smith calls him out, they say the UFC puts out a thing, Gustafsson's got a minor injury. He's now out. So this is where the Bizarro world comes in. And this kind of goes to the Zuffa selling to these new WME guys. Gustafsson has been ruled out of the fight since Friday. For 2 days, he was ruled out of the fight. They didn't know it. They're still putting stuff on their social media like he's looking for a fight.
You're kidding.
No. So their excuse was that some of the board members or whatever didn't know Gustafsson was actually out. Oh, it was Khalil Roundtree. Khalil Roundtree, who just knocked out Gokhan Saki a couple weeks ago, said, hey, I'll take it. Okay, well, apparently...
Wait, they were going to have Khalil Roundtree fight
Gustafsson.
Dude, that would have been the ultimate feed to the wolves.
I don't like it for Khalil. Who knows? I mean, maybe Khalil tags him. I don't know.
True.
But, I mean, we ain't seen Gustafsson fight in 2 years.
No.
So, so we got... basically, they said their board members, some of them didn't know that Gustafsson was out. So they were still promoting that Gustafsson's going to be on the LA card.
It is unbelievable.
It's nuts. Think of Roger Goodell. Gustafsson, if you got top 10 guys that people know about in the UFC, he's got to be in there.
Yeah.
So think of Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady, any of the now.
Imagine trying to set your fantasy lineup, and that morning you're like, okay, yeah, Rodgers hasn't had an injury designation all week, and then all of a sudden you see Deshaun Kaiser toss the helmet on and jog out there under center. It's like, hey, where's the miscommunication here?
If this doesn't prove that WME doesn't know what the hell they're doing, nothing does. I mean,
they absolutely don't.
So this will be a good time to bust into the new latency segment, the latency breakdown.
That's actually where I was going to transition to. Sean, you haven't got to break down the fight yet. You're going to break down the fight right after Leighton. So guys, get ready. This is Leighton C's fight of the night breakdown.
So basically how this will work is every week Thomas will give me a fight, and I'll watch it, and I will pick my guy before for a fight a little bit, and at the end, I'll give my new opinion on the guy who won.
So basically what he's saying here is that he's going to handle this thing like a good underground cockfight. Like, he's going to look at the guys, doesn't know anything about him, he's going to take his pick, he's going to see if he's right, and then he'll break down the fight for you guys. So Leighton C, take the floor.
This week, Thomas gave me Shogun and Smith. What's Smith's first name? Anthony Smith. Before the fight, I picked Shogun because Smith has dumb tattoos. He has a fucking tribal tat, and he has a thing of Dreamcatcher on his back.
Hold on. I want to stop you there. Tribal tats were badass when I was growing up. So for
maybe whenever Shogun was good.
So us older dudes loved the tribal tats.
Maybe that's why Shogun got knocked out.
Okay, well, anyway. So, yeah, he has shitty tats. So, the kind of tattoos that bitches would have. So, I think Smith's a bitch. At the beginning of the fight, they tap glove. It's also a bitch move for Smith. They both went for a kill shot pretty early and both missed. They got slow for a little bit. Then Shogun got in close or something and kicked him in the face. And then Smith said, hey, I'm not a bitch. He kicked him in the face, and then he immediately knocked out Shogun. So after the fight analysis, says that Smith's a badass, Hall of a Lion, future champion, he might never lose again.
Never lose again. Dude, I really like Smith. I think that he can make a run in this division. I know because DC's on his way out. We don't know about the John Jones saga. Where do you stand on Anthony Smith?
I love that breakdown.
The breakdown was great.
The reason I had picked Smith originally is because I'd seen him fight at 185, and then when he bumped up to 205 to face Rashad, I mean, Rashad's been hit with some. You remember John Jones hit Rashad with an elbow, a couple elbows in the fight, and didn't knock him out. Smith hit him with one, or no, it was a knee. I'm sorry.
Knee.
Yeah, he framed. Hit him with a knee, knocked him dead. I mean, and I thought, oh man,
him.
yeah. I mean, and Rashad's retired now, so I thought with his at 6'4", he's not losing any size to 205. He should have been 205 the whole time, and he's going to be healthy now.
To fight at 185.
So the way the fight goes, I mean, Leighton pretty much got it right. Smith, I felt like, was trying to gauge what kind of Shogun was going to come out. Was it going to be the Shogun, of old shoot to box where he's just berserker coming in? That's not really what he got. Shogun was kind of being tentative. I think Smith maybe hit him with a leg kick, hit him with a nice leg kick that really kind of woke Shogun up. They got into a couple flurries there, and then the kick that Leighton so eloquently broke down, it was like a front kick to the face.
A front kick to the throat.
Yeah, and he was kind of wading in when he did that, and when he waded in, he put Smith's back on the cage, and then Smith hit him with a couple punches, and then Shogun just walked all the way back being punched, all the way to the cage, got a flurry, and then that ending, man, Smith hit him with an elbow, and it cut open Shogun, and it put him asleep, but he was still standing. So he was standing asleep and took a few more punches until he finally caved. I mean, it was absolutely brutal. It was as brutal as a knockout you'll see in MMA. Before the fight, I was messaging you that Smith, so they do these Facebook Live type things, or sometimes with some of the bigger guys, but Dan Hardy, basically those announcers, so Dan Hardy was announcing like a couple days before the fight, they'll sit down with the fighters and just ask them questions, so that way during the fight, if there's lulls in the fight, they'll say, oh, well, Smith did this and that and this and that. And Dan Hardy was so impressed with him that he got a hold of the UFC dudes and like set up a really quick Facebook Live with Smith the day of the fight. Wow. And when that happened, I watched the whole thing. He's really, he's a soft-spoken guy. He's got a really good story. I guess he grew up wrestling in Nebraska. Basically just went to school to wrestle. A little bit of Sean Thompson there. Only in school to wrestle. Something happened. He ended up dropping out because he couldn't wrestle anymore, probably grades. And then he kind of just stumbled onto the MMA scene. Now, that was one thing. A lot of people were picking Shogun because Anthony Smith, and I seen some of those big media outlets wrote this. They picked Shogun because of Anthony Smith's record. He has like a 30-13 record.
Yeah, his record's not that great.
Well, when he talks about it, he's only been training in like an actual school for like a year.
Are you serious?
The rest of the time he was just fighting. He said he didn't know anything. Like he was just training with buddies, maybe train here and there, go fight. So we're talking about a kid who...
Because I was very impressed that he had fought 33 times. I had never heard of him other than the Rashad fight.
I believe he said that the last 2 fights are the ones that he actually found a team and has been training with. And look what's happened.
I can tell.
He trashed Rashad and he trashed Shogun.
Yeah, and he's long... And whenever he was backing Shogun down, it was beautiful, man. Like, he was throwing those wide, loopy punches, but they were powerful.
Well, and Shogun had that shell in his front face, so those looping punches were... Don't think of them as like bad looping punches. They were what were going to land.
No, they're a rarity for people to actually throw and have effectiveness.
Yeah,
and
especially
that's what I was
that length.
I'm watching it, and I'm like, damn, this guy's legit. And that was it. It wasn't the front kick to the face. It wasn't the finish. It was whenever he was backing him down, and it almost like I hate to say it because you'll get what I'm saying. Why I hate to say it. It was almost Conor McGregor-esque as he was like walking a guy down, just tagging him with shots that are coming out of nowhere, and it was really good to see. I would like to see Anthony Smith go ahead and fight Corey Anderson and those guys be fast-tracked to the title shot because both of them had such impressive wins. Yeah. And it was enjoyable to watch. I think Anthony Smith, I'm not going to be surprised if he's fighting for a title shot within a year and a half.
Yeah,
I'm really
especially if you look at the 205 division, I mean, Anderson, which him and DC talked a little bit back and forth on Twitter, I feel like that would probably be the one they'll be, because DC said that he wants to do something Conor didn't. He wants to defend that 205 title. So I actually see Anderson probably getting that next. I think that would probably be easy pickings for DC, to be honest. I just think
that's a perfect matchup for him.
It really is.
Now, a guy like Anthony Smith, who's a little more John Jones-like, who has a power behind his hands.
Exactly what I was thinking.
That's a nightmare. And he won't take
and
that
we
fight.
know Anthony Smith wrestled. Now, he wrestled in Nebraska, who traditionally, a top 10 wrestling state in the country. We don't know how good he was. Was he state champ level and dropped out? I mean, we've seen that happen in Illinois. Right. He legitimately could have been one of the best high school wrestlers in his state and bad grades and just dropped out. So he might have good enough wrestling to keep DC off of him. And like you said, with the Conor-like punches, he's really good at keeping him on the end of those punches. You know, that's why we talked about Struve. That's why I didn't pick Struve. Struve's got a 4,000-inch reach, but wants to fight like he's in a bathroom stall, You
think it's crazy to say that whenever John Jones comes back, Anthony Smith's the first guy to beat him?
No. I mean, it would be a good scrap because
would be a good fight.
We know Jones isn't the best boxer. No. I mean, that's a really good matchup. Because Jones, and that's a good kind of contrast in they're both tall guys with good length. Jones not necessarily the best boxer. DC was touching him up. DC's like 5'2".
Yeah.
So if you get a long guy that knows how to use that reach on him, kind of like Gus did, that could be a hell of a fight.
I think Anthony Smith's my favorite guy in that division now. As far as just a good fighter.
I mean, of course I love DC. I mean, we can't even count Jones at this point. We don't know what's going on with him. So aside from DC, Smith he's my favorite dude in 205 right now.
Yeah, we're going to hammer him until the cows come home. I can guarantee that. I'm betting on him every single time he comes up. So we're going to go ahead and transition a little bit, get to UFC Fight Night. This weekend it's going to be in Calgary. It's going to be this Saturday, and quite a few fights actually to look forward to here. I think, out of the main card, I have a lot of my some of my favorite people to watch. I love watching Olivier, Aubin, Mercier. Love Joanna. Aldo's always fun to watch. Jeremy Stevens, a dog. And then the headliner is even going to be great. We'll start it off. We're going to have you predict the fights. We're going to see if you can keep the streak going. I want to see if you can predict 9 straight fights. So we're going to go ahead and start it off. Alexander Hernandez. He's the number 13th ranked lightweight. And he's going to be facing number 15th ranked lightweight, Olivier Aubin Mercier, who is actually the minus 145 favorite to Hernandez's plus 115 dog. Last week, you gave us 2 dog winners out of your 5 picks. Is this a chance for a dog winner here?
This is we better preface this. This whole card's pretty tough to
very
pick.
Tough.
We're only picking the 4 main event fights. It's very tough. Hernandez. I'm going to pick OAM. I'm going to pick Mercier.
I love him.
The reason, the Canadian Gangster, that's what I'm calling him. His name's too long. That's his nickname, is the Canadian Gangster. The reason I'm picking the Canadian Gangster, I think this is his 9th fight in the UFC. Mm-hmm. He's only gotten better. He's a very, very good grappler. But he's got good stand-up. He's a southpaw, but his main thing is grappling, and he's very smart. He comes from TriStar, which is Faraz Zahabi, trainer of George St. Pierre, Rory McDonald, and he's he's very Rory McDonald GSP-like. He's got good striking and very good grappling. So Hernandez, we've only got about 20 seconds of work out of him. He completely demolished Beneil Dariush, who's a tough 55-pounder, and I think that's how he stole that 13th rank. I think Dariush was ranked 13 when he smashed him. But Hernandez is insanely talented. This is a crazy fight because when Hernandez knocked out Dariush, I was so impressed with him. He looks a lot like Dillashaw-esque, like Cruz-esque, like that movement, that switching feet, and basically he just clobbered Dariush. So insanely punching power, way more punching power than OAM, but we don't know anything else about him. I couldn't find any other fights on him. He's only had one in the UFC. So the body of work from OAM, the Canadian gangster, and just how good he is, I think he'll be able to weather that storm from Hernandez early, ground it, and make it a long fight. So got OAM by decision.
And usually they don't take guys like, Mercier and take them, put them in their home country and let them get their ass kicked.
It's going to be a tough one. Hernandez is tough. I just don't know how tough he is. I mean,
right. Yeah, made quick work his first fight. Yeah. So it's tough to gauge on those.
Well, and but Dariush is not known as a striker. I mean, just plain and simple, he's not a striker. I think he trains at King's, but he's a grappler, and he just got caught looking and got smashed. So.
Right. So we actually have a women's fight on the main card, strawweight battle, and I'm actually looking forward to this one. It's the number one contender, former dominant champion Joanna Jacek, minus 300 favorite to number 5 Tisha Torres. She's a plus 123 underdog. Isn't she the little tornado?
Yeah, tiny tornado. Yeah, that's her.
Yeah, she's absolutely adorable, I think.
Yeah.
So who's winning this fight?
I'm gonna have to go Joanna.
Yeah,
I mean, it's Joanna. The only person that's even really made her work was Rose. I thought that last Rose fight was a lot closer than what people remember for some reason.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, I felt like she lost, but I don't. It wasn't one of those unanimous, dominant across the board fights. There was times Joanna was looking very good, and I want to say she outstruck Rose, if I remember correctly. But a lot of her strikes were leg kicks.
Yeah.
And we found out in some fights those don't add up.
It wasn't one of those fights that Joanna, looks like the reign is over. It looked like that Rose is just Rose, kind of rose the occasion.
She's got her number. I mean, we've all played sports or wrestle or whatever. Some people just have your number. In baseball, there'll be that one batter who just hits everybody, and then there's just one kind of shitty pitcher that just for some reason's got the dude's number.
Right.
I think Rose, if they fought 10 times, I think Rose would beat her every time. I just think that's how it is. But there's no reason to think that she's dropped off to lose to Torres. I do like the tiny tornado, tough as nails. Her fiance is Rocky Pennington. They train out there in Colorado together, so she's got the conditioning, she's got the toughness, and really, they say she's more of a kickboxer. She's a little more stiff. She's kind of a stiff kickboxer, whereas Joanna is a lot more fluid. So I still think a decision here. I don't think Torres is going to get stopped, but I think Joanna is going to just touch her up when she wants at all times. So, and I actually don't like this fight for Joanna. I wanted her to go to 25. I don't like her at 15. That's the only worry, is if she has another bad weight cut like she did that first Rose fight.
Right. So we'll go ahead and get on to the co-main event. It's a featherweight fight, and it actually has two of the biggest names in featherweight, which absolutely blows my mind because we have a number 2 versus number 4 contest on our hands, and then in the main event we have a number 3 versus number 4. So this is just showing you how saturated the cards have become and how even the free cards have become great. And it is number 2 featherweight Jose Aldo opens as a minus 120 favorite to number 4 Jeremy Stephens, who actually has even betting odds. Jose Aldo basically hasn't lost to anybody other than Conor McGregor and Max Holloway in the past 150 years, and Jeremy Stephens riding a pretty impressive 3-fight win streak. Mr. Shackelford, where do you see this fight going, and who do you have winning this fight?
I thought this was the hardest pick, to be honest.
I agree with you.
Stephens, we watched him fight in St. Louis against the
Do-Hoo Choi.
Do-Hoo, what was his nickname? It was like Korean Superboy or something.
Yeah, the Korean Superboy.
Yeah, and it was a great fight. Stevens, he's been off and on. You said he's on a 3-fight win streak, but if I'm not mistaken, I think he'd lost 3 before that.
He had lost 3 of his last 4.
Okay.
He picked up the win against Renan Barão, lost to Max Holloway. Then he lost 2 of the 3 fights prior to that, even.
Yeah.
So he was definitely.
He's
not
been
looking
hot
good.
and cold. He's
Yeah.
been hot and cold. Now they said that he's really. He trains with Eric Del Fierro out there at Alliance, which is the same people that do Dominic Cruz trains out there. They said he's really given everything to Del Fierro, and I guess before he kind of guarded some of his camp from that guy, and they think that that's why he's on this 3-fight winning streak. So we know what Stevens is. Huge punching power. Not always the best at following the game plan that will win him the fight. And he's done that in his last few fights. The last one I can remember was Frankie Edgar. I think we had picked him to beat Frankie Edgar. This was well before the show started, I believe. And he let us down. Frankie kind of touched him up. And he even had Frankie hurt at one point, but he didn't come after him like we're normally seeing him. This is a tough.
This is the toughest fight on the card by far.
My heart is wanting to pick Stevens because I would love to see Stevens fight for a title. I remember the first time he fought Din Thomas. The first time he came out, he fought Din Thomas on a couple days' notice. Made an awesome fight out of it. That was when Din was like in his prime. I'm going to have to go with Aldo, though. I mean, like you said, Aldo hasn't lost to anybody but McGregor and Holloway and probably ever. I don't think ever. And I think in a 3-round fight, he won't have to pace himself as much. And I think he'll be able to use those leg kicks on Stevens since Stevens is mostly a boxer. So I see Aldo being able to push the pace, use those patented leg kicks, and then coming in with his boxing late and taking the decision.
Are you at all worried that, Jeremy Stevens, probably the only other 45-pounder that hits as hard as him is probably Conor. Three of all those last 4 fights, he's been flatlined.
No, he hasn't been flatlined. He's been stopped. But that's because Max hit him with about 400 punches.
Well, yeah.
It's a different punching style. Max's volume.
Conor was...
That was him being so pissed off after about 2 years of a dude calling him a little bitch that he just ran out there, and we know, Conor's got the touch of death. Mm-hmm. I will say that if you put him on a machine, I'm guessing Conor and Stevens would hit probably about the same.
But Holloway isn't anywhere close to Stevens.
Oh, no. He's an accumulation striker, and that's what happened. I mean, he hit probably 150 punches off Aldo's face before he stopped him. Now, if you put Stevens and Conor on a punching machine, they'll punch the same, but they punch different. Stevens, you see him coming. He clubs people like they see it coming. Conor's more like a sniper. Like it's the shot that you don't see coming that knocks you dead.
Right.
So I think Aldo will be able to see Stevens' shots coming. I think the leg kicks are going to come in big to play here. I think the leg kicks and the fact that Aldo is going to be in a 3-round fight for the first time in probably 10 years, he doesn't have to pace himself at all. So if it was a 5-round fight and he was having to pace a little bit and Stevens could jump on him early and make him work harder, then the pick might swing a little different.
What about, you could also look at it though, like maybe Aldo runs out of time.
Maybe. I mean,
maybe
he might.
Aldo, loses those first 2 rounds, runs out of time.
That's why this was the toughest one to pick.
I know. There's honestly, a lot of factors that go into this card. My heart says Stevens.
But for sure, I love picking Stevens. Actually, that night that you won the couple grand or whatever you won on Conor beating up Chad Mendez, I think Stevens fought Dennis Bermudez on that card, and he was the dog. And I told you, Bermudez gets hit. You don't want to get hit by Stevens, and that's what happened. Yeah,
you told me the little
So Bermudez was beating him up for most of the fight, and then he took a shot, and you cannot take a shot from Stevens. So insanely hard fight to pick, but I'm gonna go Aldo. I don't know that there's a ton of money to be made on these fights. I think the odds are so even on them.
That can help you make the money.
Can it? Like maybe like a parlay or something?
Yeah, if you parlay them.
If you parlay them right, but if you just went straight up, if you're just picking straight up, just 4 fights, it's tough. This is a tough card.
Yeah, it is, because I think at best that you're going to do is probably go 50% on this card, because this is a tough one. This is a tough card. I'm going to round them up and parlay them, just ride on the fact that you're going to go 9 straight. So, final fight of the night. It's a fight we've seen already. Lot to be desired at the end. We didn't get a finish in that fight. Got a no contest. Lightweight bout, number 3, Eddie Alvarez, versus number 4, Dustin Poirier. Poirier opens as a minus 150 favorite to Alvarez plus 130 dog. This is a rematch. Last time we saw Poirier kind of whip on Alvarez. Alvarez get an easy way out with some illegal knees. Do you think this fight's going to be any different?
I watched a ton of these guys, both of their fights, like all their last fights. And basically it boils down to this. Poirier is much better at distance. His hand, he's got faster hands. He still hits hard, and he's much better at distance. Alvarez is a much better at when he's chest to chest with you. He's throwing hard, but when he's on the outside, he's not very good. And as evidenced by the counter fight. Yes, very much so, very much so. I was kind of looking it up, and so Alvarez, he was always known as the underground king. He was fighting in all these other organizations, winning belts, and he was known as the guy that everybody thought was the best guy in the world. Well, then he jumped into the UFC, lost to Cerrone. His next fight against Gilbert, I thought Gilbert won. I remember it being a very close fight. I thought Gilbert should have got the decision. Then he fought Anthony Pettis. Same thing happened. He got an insanely close decision against Pettis. And then he fights RDA for the title. And we later found out that RDA was in such bad shape from his weight cut, like basically they had to carry him to the scale. And when I watched that fight again, RDA was beating him up the entire time. Beating him up from the outside, hurt him, came in, got hit, and then Alvarez jumped on him and clubbed him. That's exact. And then that
was the luckiest championship run you've ever seen.
I don't want to say lucky because he was in there, but it was a weird one. I mean, he lost.
But somebody has to be the luckiest.
Exactly. I mean, and I feel bad for Cerrone because I think Cerrone after that Alvarez fight may have fought RDA and got stopped with that body kick. Well, then like the next Alvarez wins 1 or wins 2 and then jumps in against RDA and beats him. So it was like
timing.
It was exactly. It's what we talk about with Cerrone all the time. Like his timing's always been off. But so same thing with Conor knocks him out. Then we have this Poirier fight, and Poirier's beating him up. I mean, I rewatched the fight. I remember watching it the first time and thinking Poirier was winning and Alvarez was looking for a way out. I watched it again. I feel it even worse. Like when you really look at it, Poirier was tooling him up, and then that same thing. He got in too close, got hit with a shot. Alvarez came and kind of swarmed on him and hit him with those illegal knees. I'm going to go Poirier again. I think Poirier's been on a roll. They both fought Justin Gaethje and beat him. And even that Gaethje-Alvarez fight, Alvarez knocked him out with like a minute left with the knee. But Gaethje it was probably who won the third round would win the fight. And Gaethje was like bending over so tired that he got hit with that knee. So, again, Alvarez seems to have this horseshoe up his butt. But I don't think he's going to get it with Poirier. I think Poirier's in the position where if he wins this, they will get the winner of Conor versus Khabib, or maybe fight Khabib if something goes wrong with the stuff with Conor. So I think Poirier hangs out on the outside, is smarter this time once he hurts.
What about El Kukui?
He's still down. We don't know when he's coming back. So if Conor's all cool and he gets to fight Khabib, then you'll get Poirier versus El Kukui, I think.
Yeah. I hope so, because I think that would be a good fight. I do agree with you, though. I think Poirier is going to kind of trash Alvarez this time. Because, I mean, he was winning the last fight, and you have to think that he's going to just have in his mind, like, I'm going to get this fight over with as soon as possible. He's going to go out there and dog him.
Yeah.
My only fear is that he wears himself out because he's, like, kind of pissed off. About
That's always in there. I think he'll be smarter this time because, like I said, he was really touching Alvarez. Alvarez didn't have an answer. I mean, he was just standing there taking it, and then he just ended up getting one in when Poirier got too close. So I have been seeing a lot of Alvarez talking about grappling and stuff. So there's always that, because that's what happened with Alvarez and Pettis. He basically just wrestled him the whole time. But I think Poirier's a better wrestler than Pettis, so I think we'll be all right there.
Right. So the UFC is actually came out. You know, they've been having the good and the bad, the good and the bad, the good and the bad, and the Gustafsson was the bad. But they did announce that there are 3 up-and-coming fights, and honestly, these fights are awesome fights. First one, we'll just touch on these for just a little bit. Just talk about how excited we are for them. Darren Till, Tyron Woodley. Kind of odd, though, because here we are, they're fighting for the belt, and Covington has the interim belt. So I actually brought this scenario up to you earlier. So Covington can't fight for some undisclosed injury, am I right?
I think he had surgery on his nose. He had like nasal, probably like deviated septum surgery, if I was to guess.
Okay, so why would he have surgery on that? That sounds like an elective surgery.
It is. I mean, you just don't breathe. That's why I have to wear breathe right strips every day of my life.
What a sissy.
I'm not electing and taking it. I'll fight Woodley tomorrow.
Yeah. Shackelford Woodley. But so I thought this was hilarious. So every time a guy pulls out of the title fight and he's the champion, what do? They make it an interim belt and they have another dude step in. So let's say Darren Till and Woodley are about a month out. Woodley pulls out. How awesome would it be if they threw Kamaru Usman out there and they're like, oh, interim belt time. 3 belts are being held in this division at one time. How awesome would that be?
I mean, that's basically what we have at 55.
That's what
we have 3 champs at 55 right now. We have
Khabib, and
so Connor's the lineal champ.
Yeah.
Ferguson was the interim champ. They stripped Ferguson and gave Khabib a belt. So we have 3 champs at 50. So why not have 3 champs at 70?
Yeah, because you know what they would do at 70 is they just be like, all right, Tyrone, take his belt from him.
This blows my mind. This is Bizarro World. If you're not familiar with Seinfeld, go watch you some Seinfeld. We are living in Bizarro World. So Woodley was trying to get all these fights. I want to say he fought like 3 times last year or something. He'd fought quite a bit. Well, then
he didn't use too much energy.
No, he didn't. So then he was trying to get that GSP fight, and then he's trying to get that Nick Diaz fight, and that Nate Diaz fight, and that Connor fight. And then when all those fell through, he got elective shoulder surgery. Well, he was going to be ready. So what month? So he was going to be ready in July. I think Covington and RDA fought in June, so just like a couple weeks ago. He was going to be ready in July, but they didn't want to wait for Woodley. So they made the interim fight. So now
doesn't make any sense.
And we're doing it again because guess what? Covington came out and said he'd be ready for the November 4th card at Madison Square Garden, which I think is what he was saying from the very beginning. Guess when they're going to have Till and Woodley fight?
Halloween, probably.
Like September 5th. Basically like a month and a half. If they just wait, I think this is the new WME. They don't want to wait. They need names for these cards and belts for these cards, and they're just like, what's it matter? We'll do an interim title. Okay, well, the interim guy says he can't go.
Let me tell you what's going to sell more than Darren Till and Tyron Woodley. Throw a Diaz brother on the card. You don't have to put belts out there. Do you not agree with that? Do you think Diaz brother sells more than belts?
I answered one of those. My answer to this would be is take away all the belts. At this point, take away all the belts, have the biggest name, biggest ticket sales guys fight each other, and then everybody else just kind of down the list. Because at this point, we're completely just making the titles worthless. I mean, it's almost like, 20 years from now, if they still have a UFC, if the UFC is even a thing anymore for 20 years from now, which
it better be,
it's in jeopardy at this point in my eyes.
This is my retirement income right here.
This Hall of Fame will have an asterisk by it because they'll say, because they're putting the champs in there, like their names are on the wall. We'll have 8 champs at one time. Like, to me, I would rather them just take the belt. Say, you know what? We're not going to do belts anymore. Connor's clearly the biggest draw. Khabib's the next biggest guy. We want to see him fight. Okay, we're going to fight for it. Why even call it a 55-pound championship?
Why don't they fight for a money belt?
Yeah, do what Pretty Boy Floyd and Connor did. The money belt.
Yeah.
Like, what's it even matter?
It doesn't.
It's wacky. Just wait on the dude. Just wait on him one more month.
Gut check who wins. Till Woodley.
Till.
I agree.
I think it's 100%. A horrible matchup for Woodley.
Yeah, Woodley's in the worst possible scenario here.
He went from a fight.
Jump on your bets early in this fight.
He went from a fight that probably, I don't want to say is easy pickings, but I think went to one of two ways. Either Woodley stopped him early, or we saw the reverse Diaz brothers just throwing a million punches to a bullcrap takedown by Covington to a decision. Now we're looking at it. I don't know how he beats Till.
No, he can't.
I don't think he'll take Till's down. He ain't going to outstrike Till. It's an ugly fight for him.
Yep, I agree. Till's actually going to be the plus 135 dog. As soon as that line comes out, jump all over that. I love that bet. The second fight on our list came out this week. Cowboy Cerrone versus Platinum Perry.
Can you imagine a better fight?
That's going to be the best.
That's at Denver. You know what we ought to do? Just say screw it. Drive out there. Stay with your buddy, long hair, super care, overnight, and watch the fights.
I'd totally do it. I would totally be down. That would be awesome. Getting to watch Cowboy Cerrone fight live would be
in his hometown.
The best.
Denver's essentially his hometown.
Yeah, I love that fight. Gut check who wins.
Cowboy
will win that.
Yeah,
I think this is going to be easy for Cowboy.
I think he lost in Denver last time. I don't think he loses in Denver again.
No, did he actually? He lost to Till in Denver, didn't
Masvidal.
It was Masvidal. That's who it was. And then finally, Paulo Costa. This is like if you could pick two guys who look like.
I don't know if you got the news, but this fight ain't official.
It isn't?
No. What we talked about earlier. UFC announced it, put it on their official social media. I found out today Romero's injured or has had some kind of surgery.
You've got to be kidding me.
No. I wrote that down just to say that, and I forgot to put it in our notes. It says that
it's set for 203.
They put out that it's set, but it's not. They came out today. Reports are that Romero is hurt. He can't fight. Wow. They put out. This happened with Justin Gaethje versus what's the real estate dude? Al Iaquinta. They put out Al Iaquinta versus Gaethje, set a date. Al Iaquinta came out and said, I don't know why you're putting this out yet. I haven't even got a bout sheet. Like, I haven't signed anything. And guess what? Iaquinta's not fighting him.
That's crazy.
I'm telling you, WME has no idea what they're doing.
That is crazy. No, I agree with that. But let's act like it's going to happen. Gut check who's going to win that fight. I think Romero dogs him.
I think Romero gets him. I think Costa gets hit too much.
Yeah.
You can't get hit by Romero.
No.
It's got to be you got to be slick to beat him.
If it's going to be on UFC 230, you know what that's going to be? What? It's going to be a 3-round fight.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Nobody
can beat Yoel Romero in a 3-round fight.
No, I don't think anybody beats Yoel in a 3-round.
If the UFC was all 3-round fights, Yoel Romero would be the greatest fighter that ever lived. I mean, that's what it boils down to.
He would be like Butterbean. Butterbean was the 5-round champion.
The 5-round champion. Put his forehead out there, let you dot it up for a minute, and then club you.
Yeah, ESPN put it out. Ariel Helwani, who, if you guys don't know him, he's been kind of one of the long-running, really the most credentialed and probably the best writer in MMA for a long time. ESPN finally picked him up. But, yeah, he put out yesterday that Romero... he has not he has not agreed to it.
I think he should.
Oh, he had surgery on his broken orbital bones less than a month ago.
I think it'd be an easy fight for him.
I think so too.
Yeah,
I think so too.
Yeah, I
Costa's
agree.
I don't know why they're. Maybe they're trying to fast track Costa to the title, but
why would you? Why wouldn't you just have him do a detour around Yoel Romero?
you always want a detour around that dude.
Yeah.
Whitaker was out for another year for broken hands because he said every time I punched Romero, he felt like metal.
Yeah.
Luke Rockhold said the same thing. He said every time I punched the guy, I thought it felt like I was punching
Fourth
concrete.
bout, they actually announced Rockhold versus Weidman again.
That
So
sounds
the UFC
good.
has a lot of good fights coming.
They got
up, and
the
I'm
only
really
thing that
excited.
strikes me weird about that is Weidman said he was never cutting to 85 again.
That's weird.
He had a bad weight cut his last 2 fights. He said he wasn't fighting again. Same with Romero. Romero, they said he was going to go up to 205. He's missed weight 2 times in a row now. So, look, let's pretend like all those fights are happening. I'm jacked about every one of them.
I'm jacked about every single one.
Every single
one of them is going to be a barn burner. Every single one of them is going to be great. I'm jacked for the fights this weekend. We got Shackelford. He's looking to go 9 straight. I think he's going to do it. You guys need to ride him. Take the hand while it's hot. Don't bite the hand that feeds you. Don't go out there and bet on Jeremy Stevens. Don't listen to your heart. Listen to your brain. Listen to your Shackelford. And on that note, for Drake, for Thomas R. Shackelford, as always, Dippers, stay saucy.